Hi, this is Dan Aykroyd. He's progressive. He's beautiful. He's thoughtful. He's intelligent. He's powerful. He's positive. He is Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5 Satellite Radio.
Empowering listeners from the US to the UK. Live on air with Stephen Cuoco.
Hey, what's up? My name's Grant Kanoki. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, and artist, and you're listening to Power 98.5.
I knew this music would be very, very fitting for you. Thank you to everyone who's tuning in to Live on Air with Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5 Satellite Radio and Biz Talk Radio. Whether you're listening to us on the iOS or Android app, TuneIn, Alexa, and more, we are giving you the premiere and the premium of all great things of news, sports, entertainment, reality, TV, and film. And I'm happy to bring with us today Murray SawChuck. Welcome to the show, Murray, and congratulations on making it to the Hall of Fame.
Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for having me on. How are you?
I have no complaints. I enjoyed our conversation before we went live. It was very enriching.
Yeah, right.
On tour, 23-year Las Vegas headliner, over 6 billion online views. He's known as Pawn Stars expert, keynote speaker, reality star, producer of Murray's Misfits. I do like hair. Give me that. What is it? Hilarious.
Yes. Hilarious.
Want to expand a little bit on that?
I know, right? Well, you always look for a new name for a comedy special or something. And this fall, I got 3 coming out. An old one that's being re-released called It's Gone. And then, of course, my new one, which is called Hilarious Deceptions, which I think is kind of funny, obviously, with my hair and being trying to be a funny guy and also doing magic, And then I just finished doing a dry bar comedy special with Dry Bar, which is basically a half an hour special where it's completely clean, no edgy jokes, just, pure clean comedy, kind of like a Billy Crystal type, or a Jerry Seinfeld type style,
Obviously, we know that Tropicana has been torn down, but Laugh Factory still exist. Are you still with Laugh Factory?
Yeah, I am. Laugh Factory's not in Vegas at the moment. They've been away for almost about a year now, a little longer. And they're very picky on where they put their brand, It's a big brand out of obviously the West Coast. And so when they do place into a place in Vegas, they really want to be the right place, the right location. They just don't want to pop up something and then move again. Because, Vegas is, as you know, when you were living there, it's very transient. Things change a lot, And in Vegas, you can be famous overnight if you buy 20 billboards and set up shop, It's not always, you don't always have to be Bruno Mars or Lady Gaga, So with Laugh Factory, they're looking for a new place now. And I'd probably say in 6 months to a year, But after Laugh Factory, I went over and worked with LA Comedy Club over at the Stratosphere for 6 months. And then as you heard, Vegas has changed a lot with the economy, ticket sales, competitions. So this year I decided to go back on the road for 2 or 3 months with my wife, who is also a stand-up comedian and host and all that. So yeah, so we're in Tahoe this week for the next 2 weeks, and we'll be back in Vegas performing probably October, November this year. That's our home, so we're not going anywhere too far. So
no, and it's an incredible lineup because you're booked all the way through December is what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, and then we got new dates coming out January, February, March next year. I'm playing some Florida dates, and I'm going to go back up to Canada and do some touring in March and all that. So, and we'll release those dates probably towards the end of September once we get out a long weekend coming up.
Are you feeling still inspired by doing what you're doing, or is it starting to get to where you're wanting to take more to television or doing more hosting? Because you've got an incredible background in many things, but I want to see you more on TV. Is that something of an opportunity?
100%. I've been trying to be on TV consistently since I was probably 16, and I feel like I'm I'm that guest star on every program. You know, the guy, kind of like Rip Taylor, which is, I'm going way back for references. I know a lot of people listening probably won't remember who Rip Taylor is, but he was always that, that kind of that carrot top kind of guy that, any of the people on the Hollywood squares, way back in the old days, not the new ones, I've kind of been that guy where I just pop into things randomly, or do a cameo. And I would love a regular TV show where either maybe I'm a game show host or a host of a show, or I'm a huge, huge fan of. I would love to be a Robert Walsh. Like I love unsolved mysteries. I love Dateline stuff. I find that stuff super fascinating. So I would love if I had a choice. I'd love to be like the new kind of like Vincent Price, of this day and age. I've always liked Vincent Price, and he's actually a very funny man, believe it or not. But most people didn't get to see that side of him.
Well, it'd be perfect, and it would make sense for you, Murray, to do this because not only are you ready for it, you should have had it a long time ago. But we're not going to focus on a shoulda, coulda, woulda. Once again, you've got a great resume. Just to recap for those that are tuning in with us, we've got Murray SawChuck. He is a comedian, a magician. He was headlining in Vegas for 23 years, over 6 billion views online. I love all the neat and the interesting things that you share with us. And you've mastered Instagram and TikTok well.
Thank you. Thanks. I've had help with that. My producing partner for all my social media is a gentleman named Seth Leach, and he's just awesome. He's like a younger brother to me. We met probably 15 years ago, a little more, and he came to my show once. He was big on viral videos, and he said, "Hey, love your stuff that you're doing, but no one's watching it online." And that was like a backhanded compliment. And I said, "All right." And he said, "I can make your stuff go viral. We should work together." And this is literally on a DM on an Instagram. I was playing in a place called Jackpot, Nevada. Anything but a jackpot. But it's right by the border of Idaho and Nevada, way up north, in a place called Cactus Pete's. Really cool room, actually. And he wrote me, and I thought, I got nothing else going on. I wrote him back saying, "Let's do some videos. Come to Vegas. I'll pay for your flights and hotels. And if you think you know what you're doing, I'm totally game for this." So anyways, that was a long time ago. That was 6.5 billion views ago. And we're still buddies and we're still doing videos every day. We just shot a bunch of videos last week in Vegas and they seem to be taking off again. So yeah, it's a good thing.
I can't wait to see you live. Seriously. I was in Vegas, like I told you, 8 years, and I don't
Yeah.
know why I never made it to one of your shows, and I should have.
Yeah.
I was in Vegas for a specific reason, and I stayed in that lane, and that was it. I didn't even gamble.
Sure. Yeah, I don't even gamble either, too. I think how long have I been in Vegas? Since 2002 now, so that's 23 years or more. I
Wow.
think I probably only spent about $200 in my lifetime. And that's usually going with my mom to the casino, throwing $20 in because she loves it. I'll have a couple glasses of cheap wine, she'll have a gamble for a couple hours. And if I win $40 or more, pays for the parking. If it don't, doesn't matter. It's paid for my wine. But that's the way I look at it. You can't live in a city where you make your money off the gambling and the people that come there. It's not a wise decision because I've seen a lot of people who make a lot of money
Mhm.
that are still paying debts. There's some really famous people in town still paying their debts on the strip.
Oh no, no, that's not for me. The Hall of Fame honor. How did you feel about that? Was this something that, what was going through your head or the emotions at the time when you received it? Because it seems like this is worthy, but once again, it happened on August 11th of this year. It should have happened a decade ago.
I think, I don't know, I always feel like my big joke now that I've been inducted in the Hall of Fame, which I think is a huge honor, is pretty cool. I never looked for that. I never started the business to be any accolade of that level. I just wanted to do tricks for a living, pay the bills, and make people laugh. So having an honor like that is one of those things where you kind of go, well, that's kind of cool. I guess as an actor, winning an Oscar, you never look to win an Oscar. You look just to do good work, right? And a good film and pay the bills by it. And if an Oscar lands on your lap or a Tony or a Golden Globe, that's a beautiful thing, I think. But to have a drive for that is such a hard thing to hit because it's subjective, it's opinionated. And for example, look at Tom Cruise. He's done more movies and made more money for box offices than anyone, and still doesn't have an Oscar because he hasn't done that movie where he's in a wheelchair or he's not who he should be running from a plane, which he usually is doing. So it's funny how you kind of get typecast. And I think probably with my career, because I've been doing it for 40 years, when it was offered to me, I was really beside myself because I know what I've done in my career. I've been doing this since I was, oh my goodness, 7 years old. And from producing shows to doing kids' birthday parties to working with some of the biggest stars in the world and venues. And I've always worked. I've been very lucky, knock on wood, you know what I mean? Because I love what I do. And that's probably the reason I got inducted into the Hall of Fame Magic. If there's people out there who see my stuff and they only see one side of me, whether I prank cops, which looks like a lot of useless talent when you think of that, or create a magic trick or go on a talk show like yours or whatever. I have very different facets that people know me from. Or if I go on Pawn Stars and talk educational about a Houdini item, you see me being an idiot on YouTube, but then you see me on History Channel actually explaining where this item came from and why it's important in the world today. Two different people. So if you only see half of me, you think, well, what an idiot. Why would he ever get that? Then you see another side of me going, oh, well, he's actually quite intelligent. So it's very interesting to have that perspective and to see people, in the biz or in the world judge you for certain things when they haven't seen half of your career or they've only been enlightened to a part of it, which is fine. That's okay. It's not my job to enlighten them to everything I do. That's their decision. So I was pretty honored by getting it. I was surprised, and it was with a really good group of magicians that I grew up watching. I know David Copperfield's in there and Penn and Teller and a lot of really cool magicians. So yeah, so super honored. I think it just means that I'm old now.
Or you still look darn good. And man,
I try. It's a lot of peroxide, my friend.
It looks freaking awesome. I love it. Your signature look and statement, even though I was on your website, and for anyone that wants to go and take a look, it's murraymagic.com, murraymagic.com. The photos are perfection. Blue, if that's what you want to call it, the sports jacket, phenomenal on you. I mean, you've got a great look, a
Thanks.
really good look to you.
Thanks. I think, when I was growing up, I really looked up to a lot of stars that I didn't even know who they were until my parents told me who they were. Remember, I was born in the 70s, so I grew up watching Lawrence Welk. I grew up watching Dean Martin roasts. I grew up watching Scooby-Doo, the original cartoon that, if you remember the original cartoon, always had one star on there that you should know who they were. But as a kid growing up, you just didn't Phyllis Diller was on there and Cass Cassidy and a lot of really cool. They always had this one cartoon that was a star as a cartoon, and so I remember seeing Phyllis Diller on Scooby Doo with his wild hair and holding this makeshift cigarette and little short dresses or Liberace and his diamonds and furs and all that. And I thought, man, if you're a star, you got to have a look. That's the way it works, at least in my opinion. And then the other thing is if you're touring, you got to have a big rock and roll bus. Those are two things somehow I put together being famous and being a star and being successful because my dad used to work at the Coliseum in Vancouver for 35 years and he'd sneak me in between these buses from Willie Nelson to Paul Abdul's to Color Me Bad and you name it, MC Hammers. So I thought, man, if you're famous, you have a bus. That's the way it works. Because that's as a kid, that's all I knew. Bus, famous, or a look. And so as I was growing up, I thought, well, I may not be famous yet or known, but if I have a look that at least I look like I'm famous, at least I'm halfway there. So I started looking at Rod Stewart and Phyllis Diller, and I realized no magician's ever had a weird hairstyle. They always had it slicked back or mysterious. And there wasn't very many blonde magicians. The only famous blonde magician back in the day who actually combed his hair was Siegfried from Siegfried and Roy. And yeah, so I picked that up, and then I needed glasses in my late 20s, and one of my agents said you should really wear black frame glasses on stage like Andy Warhol because you kind of have that look. He's not around anymore, and you're a magician, so you have this totally kind of unique, trend on something that already worked. I thought that's a great idea. So now on stage, I started wearing my glasses because I actually need them, and with the hair up, and then I needed a color. And I remember watching the movie Mask with Jim Carrey and Cameron Diaz, who she never looked better. And we were like, who's Cameron Diaz? And that yellow suit he had, I thought that's a cool suit. And I knew yellow was not the color for my hair, but I knew blue was. And I thought if I get an electric blue with the same cut like the suit that Jim Carrey wore, that's a cool look, I think, for somebody that's kind of brandable. So that's how it all started. And I kind of came up with that when I was in Japan, I think in 1994. when Mask came out around there, 93, 94. So yeah, that's kind of how it all kind of happened. And now you're stuck with this look.
I'll stick with it because you own it, you wear it well, and even red. I like the red on you. What I'm
Mhm,
surprised by is there's a photo back on August 10th on your Instagram.
mhm.
Uh, you're wearing plaid, and that's even sharp.
Yeah, I love plaid. Like I mean, the other side of me, my parents owned a ranch for 28 years, 1,000-acre ranch in Washington, right below Vancouver. So it's only 45 minutes from we live in Canada. And I rode horses all my life. I rode horses since I was 2 years old. We had 40 quarter horses and everything. So I was in the rodeo for many years. And that's really what I love. Just the mountains, the horses and jeans and pickup trucks and all that stuff. So my look that I put on stage is very metrosexual kind of look is kind of opposite of really if I didn't go into this business, I'd probably wear a John Deere tractor cap, plaid shirt, jeans, and some cowboy boots all the time, and drive a truck, which I have as well. But I love plaid. I think it's always been a cool thing. One of my favorite jackets I always fly with is always a plaid blue jacket usually. But yeah, and I because my grandfather worked in the mill, my mother's side, he always had a plaid jacket on, drove a truck, had his dog, Lady, that was her name, this big kind of tall Dalmatian type dog, and we'd always go to the mill, and he'd be smoking a cigarette and driving a stick shift, and he worked in the mill, so it's kind of got both sides of my world, so.
What gives if I may say, a nice, sexy vibe about you, Murray, is you have this Matthew McConaughey-esque about you. And you got to
I
go to
love
your,
Matthew.
do you? You got to go to your Instagram to really see it. Murray SawChuck, everyone. Uh, it's beautiful because you can wear anything, yet there's this refinement, there's this polish, there's this country, I wouldn't say boy, a man about you. Um, there is no way to dumb you down and you don't look dumb or ridiculous.
I
There,
appreciate that.
I'm
I've
serious.
had my moments, trust me. I have I have had my moments. It's so funny you mentioned Matthew McConaughey because I just finished reading his book called Green Lights. So I
Uh,
love autobiographies. My wife and her family at Christmas usually buys me autobiographies because what do you buy something that has everything? And I just love reading people's stories because no one has a story that's the same. Nobody. And so I finally finished reading his and I'm just a huge fan of his, the way he made his career, what he looked at. I love the fact that he took a year and a half off and hooked a trailer up to his truck and went across the states and lived in his trailer and just kind of hung out. And he'd pull in the RV parks and people were like, it's Matthew McConaughey. Like, yeah, it's me. Once people got over that, he sat there and had coffee with them, had drinks, had a campfire, and he's no different than anybody else. And I think that's why he is so successful and so real because you realize, we all can make money. That's not hard and we all be famous, but to be nice is not easy. That's a personality trait. That's the hardest thing I think for most people to be is nice.
mhm.
It's that middle, it's Switzerland. It's easy to be amazing. It's easy to be upset and pissed off. But the hardest thing in life is to actually just be nice. So
Well, just remember that you've got a Matthew McConaughey vibe
I
about
appreciate
you.
it. Thanks. Thanks.
Once again, I want to go back to your August 8th post. What a surprise and honor last night. And I am truly humbled to be inducted into the Magic Hall of Fame from the International Magicians Society. Wearing black well, my friend. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you. That's actually the tuxedo I got married in. I told my wife who went to the event, I said, she says, what are you going to wear? Because I always wear things that are a bit outlandish. I could wear whatever. And I thought, no, yeah, I'm just going to dress up and wear a black tuxedo for once, which I never wear, which magicians are known for, which I'm usually against everything that's mainstream. I try to stand out. I thought for once I'm going to actually dress the part and take this award seriously because it's a pretty cool award. So yes, that's why. And so that's the second time I've ever worn that tuxedo. The last time I wore was about 4 years ago when my wife and I got married in Vegas. So
Very smart decision, honestly.
mhm. Thanks.
You ready for some ooey gooey questions?
Go for it. Lay it on
Okay.
me.
You've blended comedy, illusion, and rebellion. What's the one trick you've never performed because it felt too personal or emotionally risky?
Interesting. That's a great question. I wonder what that is. I wonder. I mean, metaphorically, I could say I've not done one thing because I'm so scared, but we're trying is like to have a kid in life, to have a child, like real magic, not the magic I create on stage, the illusion. I think the scariest thing for me, which my wife and I have been trying for a couple of years now, is to have a kid and our own child, and family. I think that's probably one of the scariest things for me ever. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, you two would be amazing parents." But to me, that responsibility is so overwhelming, because it is for life. And then again, people are like, yeah, but you chose magic as a career, like to survive off of. Like, isn't that right? Isn't that the biggest risk? And I guess it is, whereas having a child, like it's been done every day. Like it's not that hard to learn and to do. But in my head, for some reason so I think that's probably asking me that question, that's probably the biggest piece of magic I've yet to accomplish, which I do want to do, So and it's very personal. So
I want to say that I was in foster care and blessed to have been adopted. And those who are in foster care and go through the adoption process and wondering, are you ever going to be accepted or loved for who you are? Or is life's rejection going to continue to be seem to be the begin all to end all of everyday life? I can say you are going to make such an exceptional father that if I were to have a father like you, I would feel very proud. So to say this, because we know better and best, you're going to be an extraordinary father, mentor, man, role model, and parent to your child.
well, thank you. That means a lot. Well, it's interesting you brought that up. 'Cause I didn't know about your background, but we're going into that next phase, and obviously this is the first time I'm sharing all this, but we're going to that next phase which I never thought I would be in this position, but we have talked about fostering and adopting, and doing all that. And all my friends are like, "Oh my God, it's right down your line. Like all you do is rescue animals and help people." I said, "Yeah, yeah, but I never thought." A lot of my friends growing up were adopted. Some of my best friends were, but I never thought anything of it because it was their parents. They were adopted. I'm like, great, that was their parents, but I've never thought about adopting because I thought, hey, you have one good night, you hook up, have a baby, life's easy. Not the case. And me and my wife have no problem hooking up at all. We still love each other like it was the first day. But sometimes you kind of go, wow, I thought this was easy. You spend all your life trying not to have a child. And then you go, let's have a child. And so now we're definitely going into that phase of do we want to adopt? Do we want to foster and stuff? Because we've talked to so many people they say it's so rewarding. And so that's definitely a new page that's kind of opened up for us as well. But hearing your story as well, that's very inspiring.
Take it as a sign.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And
It's
it
more and
doesn't
more a sign. So
and it doesn't mean a child's not going to come. It may mean to where I believe, not to assume how you think, but that you understand that things do happen for a reason. And that
mhm.
timing really is everything. I mean, you've lived on this earth long enough, Murray. I mean,
Sure.
obviously, uh, I believe you will, I'm going to hold to that, will have the best of all worlds. Learn, experience what fostering is.
Mhm.
Maybe there are some people, kids in this world that can help get you prepared for that adulthood instead of just saying, "Oh, we're having reveal party. You want to come to Vegas or you want to come to
Exactly right.
Canada?"
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, so we're excited, but it's definitely been a learning curve the last couple of years of going, wow, we want children. Of course, everyone around us is having kids. Of course, that's the way it works, right? And we're like, how is this not possible? We work out, we eat healthy. Worst thing I do is maybe drink wine in the evenings. So it's one of those things you start thinking about. But it's life, I mean, and the more people we talk to, we realize a lot of people who have children, they've either adopted, fostered, or they've done a lot more work than just having one good evening together to have a child. Every time you see a child, if you're not in that, you kind of go, oh, they have a kid naturally, and you realize 80% of most people we've talked to have not had a child naturally. They're either adopted, IVF, whatever it is. So it's been a big learning curve, and it's funny being my age now, over 50, having these conversations, whereas my 20-year-old self would have never thought I'd have these conversations or discussions or anything. So it's great. That's why I love life. You never know where it's going to take you.
I really believe from an energetic value and aspect, Murray, that provided you and your wife are consciously and subconsciously letting your entire cellular self know that, hey, we're ready, getting yourself into that chemical homeostasis of procreation. It may just surprise you, because keep in mind, you've got back-to-back tours lined up. One of the things that I feel is, and as I'm processing this, is that no matter what you do and how you do it, and I'm saying this to every fiber of your being, is I believe you will not be an absent, shitty parent to your child if you end up having one in the prime of your career or when you're still touring and doing what you're doing. I truly believe, and I'm saying this to every part of who you are, that you will still be an exceptional parent that will not be neglectful, irresponsible, or absent because of your career.
Sure. And I agree with that, because as you know, when you do have a child, like anything, at least for me, anything I have, whether it be an animal, a house, a car, my wife, anything, a present from my mother, I take pride in everything we do. And I think, one thing when because I'm not a parent yet, so you can only speak as maybe what if, but we take so much pride in what we do in life. People are like, wait till you have a child or you adopt one or whatever the case is. Will be like, it'll be nothing like it. You're putting it on a pedestal every minute you can, and it'll be a priority. And that's, of course, it will, like everything else in my life that comes into my life, whether it be my friends, my family, whatever it might be. So we're excited. It's a learning curve, but I'm always positive and I'm always excited about life. So yeah.
It's going to open up doors and skyrocket your career in ways, because you're going to be able to truly relate to an audience because of that experience. And it's going
100%.
to help shape you as a human being, that you're going to be able to not just understand or figure out how you're going to speak. You're going to know, because
Sure.
experience is everything, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. You can't replace experience with anything. I mean, education is important, of course, but if you can get on the ground level of whatever you're learning in life or need to know, and you can shadow somebody or learn from making mistakes, boy, you never forget, do you?
Not at all. If you could design an illusion that symbolized your entire career arc from Burnaby to Vegas, what would it look like, and what would disappear?
I think if I could design something, it would probably be a roller coaster ride, because that's what it would be. You start off slow in Burnaby and go up this big long hill, not knowing when, the drop's going to happen. And we're all waiting for it. Even though you walked up to the roller coaster, well, the drop's happening about up there. But once you're on the actual roller coaster, you can't see when the drop's going to happen. All you see is the sky. So you're not sure when it's going to start going down. And then when it goes down, that could be, a risk you take in life by moving to a new country or a city, trying to start a new life and learn what you want to do in life. Or for me, one of my first things after I got my street cred for being an entertainer, I got an offer to go on a cruise ship and work in the East Coast doing adult shows at 19, 20 years old, and I had to do two 45-minute shows as an adult. I didn't even have 10 minutes to do for adults, but I took the gig because it was a great opportunity working on some cruise ships and making the kind of money they were offering me. And I said yes, and then I really had to scramble to try to be exactly the person who I was trying to sell them on. And I barely made it, because let me tell you, those first few shows they were rough, but like a roller coaster. And you hit that next bump, and you go up the hill again. You're like, wow, I made it. And then you go, where do you go from here? I conquered cruise ships, but I want to be on TV, and how does that work? And so yeah, so I'd say my life career and path has been like a roller coaster, ups, downs. Sometimes you go in a tunnel and vanish for a while. You don't know who you are and what you're doing. And you come out of the tunnel again with some new life in you. So yeah, so I think my life's been a roller coaster, but in a good way. A lot of people use roller coaster as a negative, positive thing, and it is. But I think a roller coaster for me is excitement, because negative doesn't mean it's not exciting. It just means it's different, and you're not prepared for it usually.
I had to think about that for a quick fart, and I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. It isn't negative. It isn't.
scary, and that could be negative to you, and the not knowing um, could be negative because you think you're expected to know the best, but then you realize that negative would turn into a positive because you learned something from it, you know. So
That friction. It's that real
mhm.
good friction.
Yeah, totally.
You've been banned and then honored. How do you reconcile being both the disruptor and a decorated insider in the magic world?
That's a great question, you know. Um, I think one thing I learned in my 20s, I tried to please everybody, you know, because that was who I was. I, everybody from my past marriage to my relationships to friendships. I didn't like confrontation. I didn't like conflict. I just wanted to please everybody. And then I realized in my late 20s, it doesn't matter how much you bend, you're going to piss off somebody. You know, you're not going to please everybody. That's not the way it works. Even if you're too nice, somebody will make fun of you for being too nice or fake or something when it really is you. And so as I entered my 30s, I think I started to really become who I am, which I think a lot of people are. I always say once you're 28 and over, then you really start locking into who you are. Because between 16 and 28, you're kind of trying everything, doing something, trying to figure out who you are and what you like. And you think you're cool, you think you're amazing. And then after you start hitting your early 30s, you kind of go, this is what I'm willing to put up with, and this is what I'm not. And this is what I want to do with my life, and this is how I want to. And whether people love it or hate it, at the end of the day, I'm the one that has to look in the mirror to approve me and be happy with what I'm doing. Whereas I think when you're young, we all want to approve from our friends and family and people because, yeah, we kind of like that, I think. It's a natural thing. And then you start realizing, well, I'm still a good person. I want to do what I'd like to do. And if you make waves in this world, this is my own opinion. I don't care whether you're Bono from U2 or Phil Collins or Oprah Winfrey or George Carlin or, Howard Stern, whoever you look up to or look down to, or Liberace, even Lucille Ball, they had to make decisions or Mr. Rogers even on his show. They had to make big decisions on directions they were going with their public life for what they believed in and loved. And they realized some people are going to love them and some people are going to hate them. But to be successful in life, I think you have to be either loved or hated. To be liked is lovely, but no one talks about being liked. Like's lovely, and it's like cardboard. You need cardboard. You need cardboard to build a box. You need cardboard to be on the bottom of a notepad. You need cardboard on the bottom of a bird cage. Cardboard's just a nice thing we just kind of have. And it's lovely. But if you really want to make waves, you have to have people talk about you and have an opinion and share that. Like, if you talk about, oh, do you like Dr. Phil? People either love the guy or hate him. Do you like Oprah? Love the guy or hate him. Any president of any country you can talk about. I don't care because I don't get political. You're gonna have half the people loving him, half the people hating him or her, because you're putting yourself into this position to try and make a difference or try to share what you believe in as an entertainer or an educational figure. And I think when you do that, you put yourself up there for scrutiny. But that's part of the package, I think. And if you don't have a good decision on who you are or what you like, then people can't decide on whether they like you. Perfect example, even a country singer like Jelly Roll. I love Jelly Roll, and he made a lot of mistakes back in the old days, but he doesn't shun that. He was like, here's who I was, here's who I am, this is what I've learned. This is what I'm going to sing about. Love me or hate me, and that's it. And I think that's really what makes somebody. Look at Cher, Madonna, Dolly Parton, the list goes on. So that's kind of what I learned as I got older. And so for being loved and hated in the business, I think I'm going right along the lines of the people I looked up to in my life. Even Bryan Adams, who's from Vancouver, who I looked up to, and he was a good old boy from there. He had controversy with Princess Diana and songs he wrote for love interests and things that he shouldn't have been doing, but he's still a great guy. So I, no matter what you look at, I think if you do want to make waves in this world, and especially now with the internet, back in the old days when the internet wasn't around, you didn't hear a lot of the back talking, or I call them the keyboard cowards, because at home now you can see something and write an opinion. No one ever had that before. To get an opinion in a newspaper, you had to have a column like Dear Abby or be on the radio like you are and everything else. But if you didn't, you just had to talk to your friends or yell over the fence to the neighbor, about how much you hate life or love life. And now you just get on your computer and have a bad day and just hate everybody or love everybody, and it's lovely. But I think, if we were not to watch the news or Facebook for a month and then turn it on, I don't think our lives would change much. I think we just keep on going, and we probably have a less hard tax,
Mhm.
less Tylenol from headaches, a lot of things, but that's where our world is now. So that's how I feel about all that, and so yeah, so being loved and hated, I feel like it's probably pretty much in line with the people I looked up to growing up, and watching how successful they were, like even the Dean Martins and the Jerry Lewises and all these people, so that's what made them.
Perfectly expressed. I'm right there with you when we think about Jelly Roll. And if you ever hear or find out he needs a publicist, please drop him my phone.
100%.
Give it right to him.
He's such a good dude, man. He's such a good person, So and he sounds great, and he's really just hitting his stride now. You know what I mean? Like even like Walter Goggins, complete different kind of person, but I think he's hitting his stride now in his mid-50s. He's a heck of a good actor, and he's done his time. I didn't know much about him until the last couple of years, but he's been around a long, long time. So I have a lot of respect for that.
And it's always like when we think about Jelly Roll or Mr. Goggins is what I like to say.
Yeah.
When it is underrated. They're talented people. But it's true when we think about media, because even before we went live here, I was just checking on all your latest and greatest, and I'm impressed by you and the way you deliver a message, even now, love them or hate them. But it's like so much more can be done. And it's like, why are these people staying in such a safe space when I'm having this opportunity with you? Why do I want to be in a scripted, boring, controlled type of atmosphere when we should be having real conversation?
100%. I think it's very true, and to get a real conversation is not that easy these days. And sometimes the other problem, in my opinion, is people nowadays aren't allowed to have an opinion.
Mm.
And I personally have a real problem with that. I don't care whether you love Oprah, hate Oprah, you love eating meat or you don't eat meat. I can respect you either way. Like I like eating meat. I like Oprah. Great. But if you don't, I'm still going to go out and have a beer with you. I'm still going to be your friend. Like I can respect you for having your opinion. And now it seems like, you see all these people on Facebook and stuff, and they go, well, if you believe in this, believe in that, just take me off your friend list because we're not friends anymore. And I'm like, okay, I understand that you probably disagree with what they feel or love in life, but that's okay. That's what makes the world go around. Like, I don't know where we lost this public opinion going, well, my neighbor has a wrong opinion that I don't agree with, so now I don't like him or her. I'm thinking, no, they have a different opinion. It's okay. They're allowed to have that. That's why we live in America. And that's where I think my biggest frustration in the last year or two is people are not allowed to have an opinion that's different than yours to still be your friend. And I don't understand that because whatever you think and love, I'm for it. I'll support you, as long as it's within reason. That it's not, killing children and weird stuff like that. I mean, I don't have any patience for that. But I'm talking about life and who you love and don't like and this and that. So great, then you do. You know what I mean? It doesn't make all of who you are. It's just what you like at this time. I can respect that. But I think I get very frustrated with people that just don't see past all that because we're all trying to do the same thing, brush our teeth at night, put our pants on in the morning, and make a few bucks so we can sleep at night and stay healthy as long as you can and live as long as you can until it's done, and I think we all forget that we're all pretty similar, no matter what religion you believe in or political affair, whatever, we're all humans, a couple eyes, couple arms, hopefully a brain, and it's just too bad we can't go back to that and respect everybody for, okay, great. You like blue? I like green. Cool. Let's go have a drink. But for some reason we got to prove to the other person why they should be liking green. I'm like, no, you like blue? I'm all for it. So that's kind of my biggest problem in this day and age, that people can't accept other people's opinions and then still realize they're still a good person. So
I consider it bullying and tyranny, to be quite honest.
yeah.
Our generation was
Mhm.
the latest and greatest and best, yet we could still sit down and have a conversation
Totally.
and sort out how to move forward with the day. I'm going to be honest, at one point, one little tiny sliver of a point in my career, Murray, I did get scared, concerned, and apprehensive as to, I'm held under a microscope as a publicist and a journalist to a certain point. Now, if I have a Howard Stern moment, what's going to happen now? You know, and don't get me wrong, I love Howard Stern. I still listen to him.
For sure.
And I was even thinking, am I able to say that? That I still
Sure.
listen to Howard Stern? No,
I know.
who's going to blow smoke up my ass and have an issue with this now?
I know. And what people don't realize is Howard Stern is actually a really good journalist. I mean, he's found his hook and his niche to become very famous in that, which I agree. And he's found that personality to be loved or hated, like we just talked about. But if he really needs to get down to it, and I think 9/11 was a great example when that happened, he switched into a proper journalist, what he went to school for, what he's always known. He asked the right questions and he was caring and compassionate. It wasn't just about big titties and the midgets and everything else he's known for. But he, he's done it all his life. So, but it's funny how people go, "Oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about." I'm like, he's done radio longer than most people, and if he really needs to do a real interview, like Oprah or Larry King, he can go back to that. That's not that's broadcasting 101. But to stand out, you got to have your got to have your thing, right? But a lot of people can't get past that, and that's fine, But for me, I love people with an opinion, because I'll have a great conversation with you after half an hour, realize maybe we don't agree with each other, and go, "My God, you're killing me. Let's go have a beer," and that's the end of it. That's it, and that's game over, and that's a moment, But a lot of people get really worked up, and it's just too bad because I think people in this day and age want to be angry and want to be dramatic and just have a point for some reason. I don't know why they do, and that's fine, I guess. I'm just too busy. To lose friends over small things like that. I mean, it's just not worth it, because there's a lot of good in a lot of people. Just because they have a different opinion doesn't mean they're a bad person.
It's true. And it shouldn't be like that if it's really a good friend, because it should never have been one-sided. But then again, don't you just love it when people let you know who they really are, no matter how long it takes?
Yeah, right. For real. Oh, yeah. And some of them will let you know.
What's the most profound lie you've ever told on stage that felt more honest than the truth?
That's a good question. Probably my age, because I keep changing my age. I know I'm 51, but anytime you ask me in a newspaper article, I will probably say 39, born in 1980 or whatever the heck it is. I had it down to a science. The year I graduated, when I got my prom, and when I changed all that for years. And if you look at various TV shows I'm on, the funniest thing about that is because I've done so many reality shows. When you fill out the reality contestant form for any show, they fill out your bio, right? So you write what you want. Then they have a legal form that you got to do background checks for. Make sure you're not a weirdo or you can go on the show. No, that form you have to fill out legally. But that form never crosses the paths of the producers. That just crossed the paths of the people doing background checks. So if you want to keep looking young on stage, the legal form put legally because everything's going to check. It has to check because your age, your social security number, it's all going to run. But that's okay. That just means you didn't kill somebody, you should be in jail or whatever the case. It's a background check. But then your profile of what you're auditioning for on the show is a whole different set of rules. They're just going off what you're writing. So if you're smart enough, you write the age you want to be and the information you want to share with them. And so for years, if you go back and look at my different reality shows and what age they put under me, it jumps back and forth like popcorn kernels. It's to me, it's the most entertaining thing for me personally, because I think that's probably one of the things that I've probably done on stage and on TV all my life. And I probably still will, because if I can get away with it and people don't fact check enough, I'm okay with that, because I can't really hide my age much. You can go on Wikipedia and find it all, but hey, it's kind of fun to do.
I got to take that because I'm wondering if that's why I haven't been cast yet for anything.
You look like you're 19. Look at you.
Yeah. And I'm just a year younger than you. No, wait, no, yeah.
Yeah. You're younger than me by a year. I'm 73. I was born. So
Yeah, I'm 74.
there you go. So
but no one's going to fact check this because
I know.
we have it cut
I'm
out.
giving the facts now. See, I'm not even lying right now. I'm lying about lying. How bad is that?
Yeah,
I
do
mean,
Ariana Grande, what is that? What is that
right?
song? Sorry, but not sorry. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we're just trying to get on the well, you're married, but you never know. Maybe we're trying to get on the Golden Bachelor. Okay.
Exactly.
Telling everybody we're
perfect. Why not, right?
If your illusions were metaphors for human emotion, which trick represents grief and which one joy?
I think grief would be maybe my newspaper tear. I do at the end of my show. I've done it for years. I do it to the song Purple Rain because love Prince and it's a great song. Basically, where I rip a newspaper up, and I think it's interesting. I mean, as a magician trick, it's ripping a newspaper, putting it back together. There's not really much depth in that, but I think if you want to get deep with that, I think you're ripping up a lot of old news or recent news that maybe you want to hide, and then over time it's restored because realistically you can't change your past. It's there. You can rip it up all you want, but it's not going anywhere. Whether you rip it up or burn all the stuff you have, somebody else does know about your past and life, so you can't really necessarily always get rid of it just by getting rid of a few pictures and a few documents. So I think a newspaper tear in that sense in my show is a bit of that. And I think the positivity side of it all is probably where I do my milk in light bulb trick, where I vanish milk in a pitcher, a classic trick. And there's a light bulb, a big, big light bulb, a 500 light bulb on stage that my wife's holding. And the milk vanishes and appears back in that bulb. And then it gets poured out of the bulb, which is a trick in its own because the bulb was lit. Electricity. So how is there milk in it? And that's a tribute to my mentor, Marvin Roy, Mr. Electric. And he was a breath of fresh air. He was just awesome. He passed away at like 95 years old about 4 years ago. And he was that one old dude that wasn't jaded. The greatest thing that I got from him, which I'm slowly adapting, is that even if I talked to him about YouTube or TikTok, which he really didn't understand, but I could show him on a computer, he would say to me, "Oh, Mur, I wish I had this 30 years ago. I could sell my act so much more. I could play more venues." And he played everywhere. He played the Lido in Paris, France for 20 years. He played Radio City Music Hall. I mean, he did all the shows. And it was great that he, at his age, didn't go, "Oh, it wasn't like the old days." He was like, "Oh, that's cool." And for someone being that age to still accept new things and change, who wasn't even using it, was so positive. And in magic, because magic, in my opinion, it's a very jealous business, just because of the fact that, and I've said this before, magic is the only art form that you can buy your talent. You can buy your talent. I can right now show you an amazing trick, teach it to you in 2 minutes. We can go in Times Square and do it for a crowd, and you will amaze that crowd as much as I will. And I've been doing it 40 years because you know how to perform, you know how to present yourself. That's the easy part. But the trick's just the device. And I can give a very easy trick to you to learn, but it looks phenomenal. And that's the problem. If I give you a violin, if I give you 5 juggling balls, I gave you, a tuba, you couldn't do that in 2 minutes and play it and sound like you know what you're doing because it's an actual skill. Or I can give you 5 jokes, to go down to Carolyn's or somewhere and do a set. If you don't know how to deliver comedy, those are just words. You're gonna bomb. Whereas magic is that only business. If you have enough money to buy props and you learn how the thing works, you can be a magician. So I think there's a lot of jealousy in our business as well with that side of things because you can buy your talent, and people don't realize it takes a brand, a look, a personality, a whole thing. It's not just the tricks, So yeah, so the milk and light bulb with my positive side of the biz because of my mentor and what he taught me and what he lives for. And it's a bright light because obviously I'm using a light bulb. So here's my metaphor. So
You've coached others in magic. What one psychological barrier you see in aspiring performers that no sleight of hand can fix?
I think the biggest problem with performers is they want to be the Kardashians tomorrow. They want to be, they want to be the Ozzy Osbournes. They want to be the Justin Bieber, or whatever you want to call it. And people don't realize Justin Bieber's been singing since he was 2 years old. Love him or hate him. Britney Spears has done this since she was 2 or 3 years old. Justin Timberlake. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. And the Kardashians, love them or hate them, they work all the time. And what you see on TV, that is a lifestyle. And it's a heck of a commitment. And they're a very smart family. I mean, Chris is brilliant. Her husband before that, was a great lawyer. I mean, that's how it all started. I mean, people don't realize, love him or hate him, it's very scripted and it's very smart and it's very well done. Like Paris Hilton, she comes off as a blonde bimbo. very intelligent woman. You know what I mean? Love her or hate her. So I think when I'm teaching somebody or trying to help somebody with tricks, the problem is you need to love what you're doing to be successful. You can't be doing it for fame. You can't be doing it for money. You got to do it because you really love it. And if you really love it, you will find success if you don't give up. And you learn from it and you get better and you make mistakes and you learn from your mistakes. But a lot of people think, well, if I learn this and learn that, I can get on TV, be famous, and I can be the Kardashians going to fancy beaches in Bora Bora, making millions. And I'm like, well, being famous is a lot more than that. Most people aren't just famous for being famous. You know what I mean? Like even look at Jersey Shore with all those, even though they're screwing around, you have to film that content. You have to have that fight. You have to have those emotions. You have to do whatever the heck you did to become that famous, to be that character that sold viewers on you. It may not be as skillful as building a rocket to shoot to the moon, but it's still a form of keeping you interested in them and tagging them along to make fans of who you are. So I think the biggest problem when I teach somebody with magic is I'll show them how the trick works. And once they see how the trick works, they go, okay, I got it now. I don't need to practice anymore. I'm like, well, learning how the trick works is 20% of it. Now you got to sell it. Now you have to sell that trick and that image, kind of like doing comedy. I can give you a great joke, but you really have to tell that story to make that joke hit. Like I'm a huge fan of Andrew Schultz, because he's I wouldn't say a new up and comer, but he's out of the East Coast, and his stories are brilliant. He's been doing it for years, but he really knows how to tell a story. You know what I mean? A lot of great guys over there, and so it's one of those things where the biggest problem is that people don't want to put enough effort in to the art form and the whole package. They just want to go on TV or try to be famous, get a quick hit, and don't understand what it does take to look as ridiculous as I do or as haphazard as I do. Usually to make something look really bad or funny, you got to know how to make it work really well before you can make it look like you're screwing things up, or being, comedy related, you know what I mean? So that's the hardest thing when you try to explain stuff to people. Whereas if I was a musician and I taught somebody how to play guitar and it was Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, well, they'd have to learn how to make it sound like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star before they knew how to play the song. And that is the difference. If they want to learn guitar, they're going to play that thing until they can hear that song come out of it. Whereas the magic trick, you hit a button, pull up the thing, it's gone, it's there, and it's that easy. So there's really not a big learning curve for that. And people don't realize with magic, it's all about personality, selling it and being that personality on stage. It's not about the trick really.
And you got to look as good as you too.
Unless you're Helen Keller, it doesn't really matter to her.
In your opinion, what's the ethical line between exposing magic and evolving it? And have you ever intentionally crossed it to make a point?
That's a great question because I have exposed magic. And where's the fine line? I think sometimes you have to look at your environment. I got in trouble for doing that last year. And of course, kicked out of the Magic Castle and everything else. But here's the problem. I was watching things online of these people exposing magic. And the magic they were exposing is stuff you bought on Amazon, stuff you can buy anywhere online for $10. I thought, man, these guys are getting a lot of views for doing this. If anyone's going to expose magic, it should be the person doing the damn tricks that makes a living out of it, not just somebody that buys these tricks and exposes them and they don't even have a career. If anyone's going to expose magic, it's going to be me because it's my business. It's my life that I've created. And if they're exposing those tricks for the last 10 years online, clearly it hasn't affected my business. I work every day of my life as a magician and as a comedian. But there's an element to that branch of that tree that if anyone's going to expose stuff, I want someone experienced exposing magic, not some random kid that bought online that has a YouTube channel and realizes this is a good clickbait. It's a good traction for views. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go buy stuff purposely on Amazon because once it's sold on Amazon, you can do whatever you want to do with it. There's no secret code to not give it away. It's like when you buy a Rolls Royce, they don't say, oh, you got to keep it black and silver. I mean, I see people wrap them in pink and turquoise, and I'm sure Rolls Royce is like, I cannot believe they wrapped a Rolls Royce in Pepto-Bismol pink. But they can't stop you. Once you pay your $189,000 for the car, it's sold. They just want to sell you the car. What you do with it after, That's totally up to you. So, so for magic, it's the same thing, but magicians don't seem to understand that. And so when they sell a trick, like I've invented 3 or 4 tricks I don't sell. I just do myself and that's it. Now, if I were to sell it and then somebody were to take it and expose it online, that's their prerogative because I was the one wanting to sell it to make money off the back end of it. If I was so worried about keeping it a secret, then I should never have sold it. I should never have given it away. And I think a lot of magicians just don't think that way. So I did it because I wanted to do something fun with my wife. I love Lucy Ball, Desi Arnaz, and I thought, hey, you know what? If I do the tricks like a cheesy magician, and my wife, who's a hot little cute blonde, exposes them, like the wife of a magician who's like, oh, you're not impressing me. That's a funny thing. It's kind of like Lucille Ball trying to, play in the band of Desi Arnaz, which she's done many times, and she'll bouncing off drums and falling down bandstands, and that's what Lucille Ball would do. It's no different than what Danny would do to me. So how would you make a joke on a magician? Well, you'd make a joke on a magician by exposing his tricks or showing him he's not that powerful. And that's what we did. And we did it. We shot the thing in 6 minutes, uploaded it. It did 70 million views in a week. And that got the ball rolling to have a few magicians saying, I can't believe what he's doing to our industry. He's ruining it. I'm thinking, well, I didn't ruin it. The minute the internet came out, that changed the industry. You know what I mean? That changed the industry for everybody. It changed the industry for brick and mortar buildings. It changed the industry for everything. It changed the industry for even people going to work. They can work out of their homes and do this, what we're doing right now. So I thought, well, I don't want to miss this avenue. It's part of my line of work. And if anyone's going to expose thing, it's going to be me, not some idiot that doesn't do magic or have never used this stuff. And so obviously I got myself in some hot water on that because there's the purists in magic who are like the diehard people that if they bought a Rolls Royce, they'd keep it exactly the way it was. Or there's the people like me that buy Rolls Royce. I'd put big rims on it. I'd paint it probably royal blue. I'd put some lights underneath it. I'd put a big subwoofer system in it because that's what I like. I've always done things a little differently, which people who are purists and who like Rolls Royces the way they were would probably hate me. But that's okay. But people who like different things and change, they would probably like me. So that's kind of my view on all that stuff. So yeah, so with magic, I have crossed the line a bit, I think, for the purist in magic. I can't believe he's going against our business. But also what magicians don't realize is I've never quit performing. It's not like I invented the paperclip. And when I'm rich now on this, screw magic, I still work every day of my life as a magician, fooling people. And so people who say, oh, you're making me get less work in that, or it's not me making me get less work, it's you getting less work, work harder, you'll get more work, and so that's kind of where I'm at with all that. And now with magic, with secrets, I think it's magicians who are keeping the secrets. They're kind of guarding an empty safe because all the tricks are exposed online now. And I think the biggest problem with magicians they have as well is if a magician does a tutorial on YouTube, here's how a trick's done. You can make it at home, show your kids, show your family. That's still exposing. Just because you're teaching a trick publicly, that's exposing. You can argue, people can argue with me all they want, but whether I do it as a prank online or to get views with my cute wife or whatever, or I'm teaching you going here, take this card, glue it behind this card, stick it over here, I'm still exposing it. So it's nice to use that word, I'm teaching, for exposing, but you really are exposing things. So, but very few magicians have a very hard time going, yeah, but teaching is much different than exposing. I'm like, no, you're still giving away a secret, whether you like it or not. And a lot of people will watch these secrets and still never do it because they just want to learn how it works, and that's okay. And it goes back to my point of being a magician. I think it's so important that it's more than the trick. Learn the trick, but then become a personality. Come on stage and be a character, be entertaining, be funny. And my biggest line since I was a kid, and it was on my coffee mugs for 20 years, it said, don't fool them, entertain them. And that's what I've always believed in, and I think that's the bottom line for anybody, whether you're a band, a comedian. It's like when I watch comedians walk on stage, for the first 6 minutes they do, how you doing, Philadelphia? Where are you from? How's it going? I'm like, you're a comedian. Get out there and start making funny jokes. Don't ask them where they're from and how the crowd's doing. They're doing great. They just paid a lot of mind to see you. So go be funny. Walk out there and hit them in the first 15 seconds with your killer joke and do what you do because that's what you're doing. Don't mess around where you're from and where'd you park and, well, who cares where you parked? Get on with your act, So, but that's just the way I think about things. So that's my 2 cents.
I would say one of the things to just expand a little bit on that, Murray, where I was disappointed with the media coverage and social media coverage on that story is that I would rather, it should be asked, like, would it rather be more beneficial to see someone like you with all the accolades that you have? Let me refresh everyone's mind. 23 years, Las Vegas headliner, over 6 billion online views, Pawn Stars expert, keynote speaker, reality star, producer of how a trick is done professionally. Then the chaos and ignorance of content by someone who doesn't have the accolades you have. Because I would feel that to watch the ignorance and the lack of respect of somebody who doesn't understand your industry and profession. You have a profession. You're paid as a professional to go on there and blatantly disregard the quality and integrity of being a professional magician, a paid, highly sought after professional magician who's was on headlining in Las Vegas for 23 years. That's a disservice to you. That's a disservice, I would think, to David Copperfield or Chris Angel or to Carrot Top or whoever else. I would want it to come from someone like you to tell me with the passion and interest and intrigue of what it means to experience a universe that you're opening up for me, to tell me why I am to remain mesmerized, interested, or in awe, than someone who doesn't know jack shit going on YouTube or TikTok or whatever else and making a mockery of your profession. And no one has asked that question. I have not seen or viewed or read one reporter, one legitimate news outlet, not even the people who sent you that letter to consider this. There's a lot of vigilante behavior on social media. Who is protecting it? You're protecting it.
Sure. Yeah.
The question is who thinks that they're King Frugal or King Tut and of authority? How did they not see that? So I find it to be a disservice to you, disservice to other people in your profession, to mark any sort of claiming to have significance of you having had done something horrible when I feel that you have every right to have done what you've done because you protected the integrity of the business, because
Sure.
you are paid to do so. You're on stage. You're still protecting the business. You're online. You still are protecting the business. And you're keeping to the integrity and interests of the profession and the art.
Yeah.
It's not like you went from being a welder and decided to one day to create a TikTok and Instagram page, call yourself a magician with no exceptional background training, no headlining, no tickets having had been sold, and exposing the business, which I see the point, but I don't see exposing anything because realistically, if it is that real, you would not be on stage as a magician. You would most likely be hired by the CIA or the Pentagon or somebody out there, and maybe NASA, to figure out what you can do with your skills to help us in outer space. It has just gotten too careless, too TMZ-ish, and I'm calling bullshit on all the latest on it. So
what's ironic with it all too is, which I found very funny, is when I went I flew into the Magic Castle and had a meeting with all the board members that had the decision to kick me out. And I wrote them and I said, and it was Howie Mandel is the one that said, you have to fly in and talk to them, because you had an option to do a Zoom, write a letter, or talk to them. I thought I was going to write a letter because I don't have time. I really didn't. Howie's like, no, you're not. You're flying in. I'm like, I am flying in? I said, yeah, you are. He says, you're doing nothing wrong. You work every day of your life. You're one of the top magicians in the world working online, live. And I mean, you're a nice guy. You're not vindictive. You love the business. You've put all these people on stage in Vegas that shouldn't have been on stage as a guest star in your show just to give them a little resume bump for maybe they'll make more money when they go back to their homes in Ohio or Nevada or wherever they live. And all this other stuff. This is ridiculous. I said, all right, I'll fly in. So I flew in, met the guys. I'm sitting around this boardroom at the Houdini seance table at the Magic Castle. And I'm telling you, every person in that room, not one of them does magic full time to pay their bills. Not one of them. They do magic now and then at a bar mitzvah or a charity party or a couple of shows here and there. But their sole income to pay for their life and their Mercedes Benz and their homes and all their kids' schooling and all that does not come from the magic profession. They own real estate companies or insurance companies or whatever the heck they do. They're lawyers. And I just find that really interesting. All these people who don't make a living doing magic that are on the board are telling me whether I should be a member of the Magic Castle or not when I work every day of my life, which I thought was kind of funny. And even when I said this, when would you like to fly in? And I said Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. This is like a year ago, and I said I'd love to meet around 1 or 2 because I had my show in Vegas in the evenings, so that worked out well for me. And I did this purposely because I wanted them to write back and say exactly what they did. I said, Murray, unfortunately, most of our board members, if not all of them, have 9 to 5 jobs. And so they will not be available until about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening to have the meeting at the castle. Is it possible you could fly in the evening one of the days? And that's exactly what I wanted to put in writing because I'm like, yes, because you all have 9 to 5 jobs. You aren't professional magicians. And I'm flying in to plead my case to you guys when I have a show in Vegas for the last 23 years and I work every day of my life as a magician. And so I have to wait till you guys get off your day jobs to sit in a big boardroom to talk to me, flying in from Vegas, canceling my show that evening. So I have a meeting with you to plead my case why I should be a member of the Magic Castle. I thought what's funny too is that same week, ironically, Penn and Teller, who I love to death, were getting a fellowship award for their lifetime achievement in magic, when for the first 20 years they were kicked out of every magic club for giving magic away because that was their hook for years, and it still is. And I just laughed at all that because it was just one of those things. And I flew home and I finally got the letters from the International Brotherhood of Magicians and the Magic Castle, and they said, "Hey Murray, if you take down the videos and promise to never put up videos like that again, you can stay in the Magic Club. But if you choose to continue, unfortunately, we'll have to take away your membership." I'm like, isn't that freedom of speech? Like, isn't that like all these other magicians that have stuff exposing online? That means, so I wrote them back and I said, I'm totally cool with that. I said, but every other magician that's exposed magic online, from Penn and Teller to Ed Alonzo, who's on Saved by the Bell, I said, they're on national TV shows exposing magic. Long as they do the same thing I do, I'm cool with that. Yeah, for sure. And you can't take down national TV. You can't call ABC going, hey, I can't take. It's impossible. So I'm like, well, and once again, like my friend said, the Magic Castle, the International Brotherhood of Magicians are private clubs. It's not a constitution. It's not the government. It's a private club. And the cool thing with a private club is you can make your own rules and you can do whatever you want to do. And unfortunately, that's what they do. And I was like, you know what? I think after 27 years of being a member of the Magic Castle, I think I've outgrown it. It's unfortunately it's a club that's kind of stuck in time. Unfortunately, I love the Magic Castle. I've always talked highly of it, always will. But I think unfortunately in 2025, it's a club that's still stuck in the 1960s and 70s, and where magic is and where it was. And I have a lot of respect for history, but they're not really in tune with where magic's going and where it's at. There's no secrets anymore. It's all about performance. You know what I mean? It's like comedians. You'll go watch Ron White every week, every year he's in town. He'll do the same jokes at times, and you'll still laugh because they're just great jokes. You're not going just because you know the joke. You're going because it's Ron White, and he's a good comedian, and he's a great performer. Magic's not about the secrets, it's about the performance. And if that was the case, we'd have a lot more, and we have a lot better performing magicians if it wasn't just about the secrets. Because these guys, unfortunately, don't put enough effort into being a performer. They think once they've learned the trick, they can go on stage. And I'm like, well, that's not really the way it works, if you want to be a good performer. But hey, everyone's got their thing, So, but it was an interesting year last year, and that's why I mean, if I was in my 20s, I'd probably succumb to it, take down the videos and all this other stuff. But at this point in age, I've got enough friends in my life. I got an amazing family. You know, if I lose a couple of friends or I don't make a couple extra friends, not going to change my life. I'm halfway through my life now. I'm loving it. I love my life, my family, my wife, my home. So if I take off a couple of magicians, so be it. What are you gonna do?
Sounds like
Life's bigger than that.
sounds like the HOA of magic.
Oh, don't get me started. I hate HOAs. Let me tell you that I don't care what religion you are, what present you like. I'm totally cool with that. But HOAs, let me tell you, those suckers are such a racket. And we own a landscaping company as well, my wife and I. And I never liked HOAs until I owned a landscaping company because you have one weed in front of your yard or a chip of paint in your house. You got some little old lady walking around at 7 in the morning who's on the board going, "Yeah, you got a weed in front of your yard. I'm going to fine you $70." I'm like, is that what your life's come to? You're the weed checker and the paint chip checker. So when I come home, I gotta have a letter that I gotta paint my fence and take the weed out of the front. That's where we're at. Like I don't live in Russia. We're not communism. Like I live in America. Don't tell me. Maybe I want that weed in my front yard. I like weeds. Forget it. But yeah, and what's funny is two of the people in this board meeting for the International Brotherhood of Magicians, they opened up with, "Well, just so you know, I'm the president of our HOA." I'm like, "Oh God, don't get me started." And I'm like, "Of course you are. Of course you're the president of the HOA." You know what I mean? I'm thinking, I live in my own house. Don't tell me what to do. I pay my taxes. I own my house. You worry about your yard. That's just how I feel, man. I just don't want people telling me how to live my life when I've worked really hard for it and I own my home. So if I want a chip of paint on my home, I'm going to have that chip of paint chipped because I want a chip right there to bother you. And that's just the person I am.
It's
So
a
be it. I don't feel
dimple.
like I'm-
You just tell them to tip the paint's a dimple.
Exactly. Exactly. And maybe I want that weed in my front yard. I like that weed.
They turn to dandelions.
Exactly,
And aren't
right?
dandelions edible?
I think they are
You can
nowadays. I
buy them
guess
in
some,
grocery stores, I
I
believe.
think Sprout sells dandelions now. Yeah, I think Whole Foods, I think you pay a lot of money for those suckers. Yeah, I'm not a very good person for the HOA committee. I just don't want to be like everybody else. That's my problem.
I love it. I love it. Seriously, I do. I
Yeah.
knew this was going to be a great interview. If you
Uh,
could perform one illusion, we only got a couple, three more. If you could perform one illusion for a historical figure, dead or alive, who would it be, and what message would the trick convey?
hmm. I think I'd probably that's a hard question because there's people I'd want to do that for that I'd actually just want to meet personally because I think they're phenomenal who I never got to meet in my lifetime. Um, but I think I'd you know I don't know. There's a couple of people I think.
Pick a couple. Go ahead. Break the
I
rule.
think one would be probably Lucille Ball. So I love the fact how serious and gorgeous she was, but how funny she was. It's very hard to be funny and good looking. And people don't realize Lucille Ball was stunning. You know what I mean? If you see some of her glamour shots, even Phyllis Diller was, but they had to dumb themselves down a bit to be as funny. And most people know that Lucille Ball never had orange hair. She colored her hair all the time to have that look. But I think it'd probably be a comedy related type trick for Lucille Ball, because that's what she's known for and likes, and that was how she communicated through comedy, you know. Or even Carol Burnett, she's alive still, and she's funny as ever. I mean, Carol Burnett is brilliant. I mean, and she could make a serious thing funny and a funny thing serious. Like it was just really, really cool. And I think maybe in a metaphorical way, maybe Jimmy Stewart, with A Wonderful Life. I love that movie. I love the message in that movie, and there's a lot to be said with a metaphor of the working hard and giving back and what that movie's all about, family and love. And it's probably one of the top Christmas movies in the world. And that was a box office flop when it first came out. It wasn't that successful. And now it's actually an iconic movie every season, probably one of the most popular movies in the world. I think that just goes to show you stick your ground and own your opinion. And as long as you have good intentions, good things will happen. But yeah, I think that I'd probably, for a trick for that, if it was to do with doing a trick for him, I'd probably do something where it'd be a trick where I probably took maybe paper and turned into money, and use that as a metaphor for magic in life, and based on that movie, the way the metaphors were in that movie about, really appreciate what you have, because people don't realize we're in our little bubble going, well, what if Facebook doesn't help this either? But we look at Facebook and go, they got a best life. Well, yeah, on Facebook, you can look like a millionaire on Facebook. I could look like I have big boobs on Facebook, and we get so caught up into other people's worlds going, well, if I had this, if I had that. Well, if you look in your own world, I think we all have something pretty cool that no one else has in their life, whether it be kids, family, friends, lifestyle, anything, an animal. There's things that other people would love to have. And there's always somebody in life that has it worse than us. There's always somebody, and I think if we just looked in the mirror and looked around our own home, we have a toilet that works. We have running water. There's many countries that don't even have that. And we forget that. We're so privileged, and I think that's an important thing to realize in life, that wake up and be happy. Wake up and be happy that your coffee maker makes coffee, that your kids are yelling at you, or that your mother's arguing with you, your father's arguing with you, your stepfather, or whoever they are. And they care, because if people care about you, that's a big win in the world, so that's my 2 cents.
It's a beautiful answer.
Mhm.
You've mastered misdirection. How do you personally stay grounded in truth when your profession thrives on illusion?
I think it's that same thing, waking up, and realize we all brush our teeth, we all put our pants on the same one leg at a time, And I think my profession has just put me in the public eye, more than other professions. But when I walk into a room or a theater, I talk to everybody. I talk to the janitor, I talk to the maintenance man, I talk to the box office lady or man. I talk to everybody. Everyone's job is just important as mine. The janitor, the maintenance man. Without him, I don't have power for a theater. I don't have a clean dressing room. I don't have a beautiful venue to walk into. A lady who sells tickets. Without her, I don't have people coming to my show. You know what I mean? All these people, and everyone is important. And I've done every one of those jobs. I've cooked fish and chips. I've telemarketed. I've fixed bikes. I've pumped gas. I've been a busboy. I've done all those things, and all those people, without people doing those jobs, um, nothing's successful. So everyone, it's like in a watch. You take one little cog out of a watch, the whole damn watch stops working. The whole thing, one little cog. But that little cog is probably the least important. Everyone thinks, oh, it's the big hand, the little hand. Well, not really. That's the least important, actually, because without those inner workings, those little cogs, those big hands, small hands, not going to turn to tell you the time. But it's the little cogs that really make the difference, not the thing. So for me, walking on stage, yeah, I get the glory and I get the attention and I get all that stuff. But without a great lighting person, a great sound person, a great person to make that theater look right and all this other stuff, I look like crap. And so it's really important to make sure you understand that everyone's role is important, even though you think their role may not take as much time to learn or be educated, which could be very true, but it doesn't mean that it's not as important. So that's a big thing in my life. Just remember, everybody has a role, and it's just as important as yours. Just because yours might be more um, popular or more people see you do your role, it doesn't mean that it's better than anybody else's.
Last question. What's one moment in your life that felt like a real magic? No props, no audience, just pure awe.
Um, I I think probably one thing in my life, probably the um the day my birthday, when I turned 25 years old. I was playing the Lawrence Welk Theater in Escondido, California. Lawrence Welk, who had a show on PBS, probably the longest running show on PBS uh, ever, I think, maybe. And I was performing with Henry Quest and Arthur Duncan. They were from his show. And I was in my motel room in Escondido, which isn't far from San Diego on the West Coast. And it was my birthday, 25th. And the internet was just around back then. So we're talking, man, we're going back to the early 90s now, maybe 98, 96, something like that. And I was in my room. Mom and dad called me, wished me happy birthday. They're still living in Vancouver, Canada. My dad was still alive. And I'm sitting at about 10 o'clock at night in my bedroom doing some emails on AOL. Because remember, we had the ding, ding, the ring, ding, ding. That's how we all connected with internet. It took forever to upload anything or download, but it was amazing. And also, there was a knock at my door. at about 10:30 at night. I'm like, that's weird. Must be one of the cast members because we had the night off. And I opened the door and mom and dad were standing there with their suitcases going, happy birthday. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm like, how cool is this? So they came in the room and I got a cot delivered and I slept on the cot and they slept in my queen bed and they spent 2 or 3 nights there at the resort with me and surprised me there. And that had nothing to, yeah, I guess it had to do with magic because I was actually working as a magician, but the magic of them just taking the time to surprise me and show up on my doorstep literally to celebrate my 25th birthday. That's a pretty cool thing for parents to do, and when they didn't have to. We talked on the phone and we were always connected in some form. But yeah, that was to me, that was really magical, going out of the way to just kind of hang out with me. So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of those experiences in life, but that was definitely one of those moments that I got to do, and it was a cool moment for me. So,
Anything you want to close with?
um, I think whoever's listening to this, um, in life, whether you're angry at people or happy in that, just realize everybody you're talking to has a story, and And a lot of times people's insecurities make them not a nice person. And it's not that they have an attitude or they think they're better than you, it's because they're going through something in their life as well. Everyone has a battle they're going through. Everybody, whether it be money or life or relationships or children or whatever it is, or a disease or whatever it might be. So just before you yell at somebody or you get angry at that person checking you out at Target or Walmart or wherever you shop, or the coffee wasn't made right, just hold back a little bit. Getting angry is not worth it because it makes you angry. Try to deal with it in the nicest way possible. And I think the biggest thing, if anyone can take anything away from me, I think is if you want a really cool goal in life, try to be nice. Don't, like I said before, that's the hardest thing I think for anybody to be is to be nice. And nice means you're even keeled, you're balanced. And that's the hardest thing that I've found with everybody in the world is to be nice. And that's probably the hardest thing for people to get to, whatever that equilibrium is, that neutral buoyancy, if you're a scuba diver, is to be nice. And that's my challenge for everyone this year. Be nice.
Thank you again for being with us today on Live on Air with Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5 Satellite Radio and Biz Talk Radio. All the latest and greatest in news, sports, music, entertainment, and more. And now magic, Mr. Murray SawChuck.
Thank
Thank you
you.
again for being with us today. How do you feel?
Great. Feel awesome. Thank
Finally,
you.
somebody in a world of media was asking you some real questions.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, tell me about it. It's great. I love it. It's
Perfect.
awesome. Hopefully the answers you enjoyed and you know they were what you wanted to hear, or at least, from my truth.
Well, I knew it would bring out your truth, and that's what's important.
Sure, yeah, of course, yeah. Well, thanks for asking me to be on your show. I appreciate that too, man.
Anytime. Anyone
Yeah.
specific? Obviously, we know your website is murraymagic.com. You're popping on Instagram. Instagram is Murray SawChuck, SawChuck. TikTok
Mhm.
is the same, right?
Yep. TikTok. Well, TikTok, I think, is Magic with Murray. I can bring it up to tell you right now because there's a
Please.
couple things that are different. Let me have a quick look at this while we're
Yeah, give
chatting.
us any drops that you want to bring up at all.
Mhm.
And you've got, I know your schedule's here.
Yeah, it's
So,
always changing. Where the hell is TikTok? Oh, there it is. Okay. Give a quick look.
and then you've got coming up, actually this date. Yeah, you're in South Lake. Wait, the Loft.
Yeah, Tahoe till for 2 weeks till September 4th, and then we're back home and then back on the road again.
Yeah, you're going to Bakersfield,
Yeah,
California, September 8th,
that's right.
and
Yeah,
Santa Monica on September 14th.
yeah, yeah. With sketchy people with my brother-in-law's show, which would be kind of fun. So, but yeah, and the TikTok is Murray the Magician. So,
How many followers you got on TikTok now? You're booming.
but almost 700,000. That's not
Jeez.
bad. Yeah,
Jeez.
684. So it's not bad. We bounce back and forth promoting on each different site. Some pop off more than others, because we're also monetized on a lot of them. So with my YouTube guy, we kind of pick and choose. If one's not doing a lot or there's not a lot of kickback from it, we just don't put stuff on it for a while. You know what I mean? So we should continuously always do it, but it's a lot of work doing all that stuff, as and getting it right. So we try to make do right now. Facebook's really popping off, so that's kind of our focus now, so
Good.
yeah.
All right.
And and send me the links when you get all these up, and I'll post them and share them and all that stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, this is a radio show. However, we happen to be on a podcast platforms, but I don't reference this as a podcast. Why should I? It's radio.
Right? Exactly right. Exactly. Well, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone for listening and tuning in. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your year and wonderful and splendid and harmonious and magical holiday. Take care, everyone.
Find us on your socials and let's connect.